I'm at my buddy's house, just helping him fix up his garage while my motorcycle's chilling out front. We're knee-deep in old tools and random junk when, out of nowhere, we hear the shrill, angry yelling, followed by the sound of stomping, heavy, determined stomping. We look at each other and I'm like, what the hell? Then I see her. Karen, HOA president and all-around pain in the ass. And she's not alone. She's dragging along a couple of sketchy-looking dudes who look like they just crawled out of some back-alley bar fight. One's got a crowbar, and the other's got a face like he just lost a bet. Karen's practically foaming at the mouth as she points dramatically at my bike. "That hunk of junk is an eyesore," she screeches. "It's ruining the neighborhood aesthetic. This place is supposed to look respectable." I cross my arms, trying not to laugh. "It's just parked here, Karen. Calm down." But she's not having it. "You can't just leave that thing out in public view. I'm the HOA president, and I'm not gonna stand for this kind of trash cluttering up our streets." She waves at her goons like she's some kind of mob boss. "Destroy it. I already called law enforcement to deal with him." I glance at the guys and back at her, raising an eyebrow. "You seriously hired these clowns to mess with my bike? You really think that's going to end well for you?" Karen's got this smug look, like she's just won the lottery. "It's your own fault for bringing that monstrosity here. The HOA guidelines strictly forbid unsightly vehicles." I can't help but snort. "Karen, that's my bike. It's legal, it's parked on private property, and you don't have the right to touch it." One of the dudes actually looks unsure, like maybe he didn't sign up for this level of crazy. But Karen just huffs. "I have every right. You can't just make the place look like a biker gang moved in. You're about to see what happens when you mess with HOA authority." I lean back against the garage door, giving her a lazy grin. "Oh, I'm looking forward to this. Let's see how your little plan works out." I squint at the two guys she dragged along, and now that I'm really looking, their uniforms are just a joke. One's wearing a faded security vest over a band tee, and the other's got a patch that doesn't even match the rest of his getup. Real professional. Then I see the gas cans. These idiots actually brought gasoline to torch my bike. One of them unscrews the cap and the strong smell of fuel hits the air. Karen's standing there with this wicked grin, like she's some kind of HOA vigilante delivering street justice. She waves her hand like she's conducting a symphony. "Dispose of it properly," she commands, and the guys start moving toward my bike. I step in front of them, planting myself between those morons and my ride. "Whoa, whoa, whoa. You really think you can just burn my property on private land? Are you out of your damn minds?" Karen scoffs, rolling her eyes. "The HOA has the authority to remove any hazards from the neighborhood, and your death trap of a motorcycle qualifies. Consider it a public service." I hold back a laugh. "Public service, huh? You do realize arson is a felony, right? And hiring fake cops to do it? Real genius move." One of the guys hesitates, clearly not as committed to burning a bike as Karen is. He mutters something about not getting paid enough for this, but Karen just shoots him a death glare. "You work for me," she hisses. "Do your job or you're not getting a dime." I cross my arms, smirking. "Karen, do you really think HOA rules give you the right to commit a crime? 'Cause I'm pretty sure there's nothing in your little handbook about setting vehicles on fire." Karen's face turns red, and she jabs a finger in my face. "I have every right to protect this community from low-life trash like you. Your ugly machine is ruining the whole aesthetic." I look at her, then at the guys, who are clearly losing their nerve, and shake my head. "You're about to learn the hard way that playing cop and committing arson aren't exactly good looks for the HOA president." She just huffs, clearly not backing down. But I'm already planning my next move, because I know exactly how to make this little stunt blow up in her face. Figuratively, that is. Karen's face goes from smug to pale in about 2 seconds flat. The two wannabe cops freeze like deer in headlights, gas cans still in hand. I can't help but let a grin slip as the real officers approach, clearly confused and not impressed by what they're seeing. One of the officers, Davis, raises an eyebrow. "Sheriff, what's going on here, and why are these guys messing with your motorcycle?" Before I can answer, Karen leaps into action, pointing a shaky finger at me. "Arrest him! He's trespassing and bringing junk into the neighborhood. I authorize these men to remove it, per HOA regulations. Davis gives her a blank stare, then glances at me like, is she serious? I just shrug, letting him handle it. Meanwhile, the second officer, Martinez, steps up to the two goons, who are now desperately trying to hide the gas cans behind their backs. Mind telling me why you're about to set fire to private property? Martinez asks, arms crossed. The guy with the faded vest gulps. The lady said it was her right as HOA president. We're just following orders. Davis looks at Karen, completely deadpan. Ma'am, authorizing arson isn't exactly within HOA jurisdiction. And impersonating law enforcement, that's a whole new level of illegal. Karen's jaw drops and she tries to switch gears fast. They're not impersonating, they're private security. I hired them to take care of this public nuisance. Davis shakes his head, unimpressed. Private security doesn't wear fake police uniforms or threaten to torch vehicles. That's impersonation and conspiracy to commit arson. Karen's eyes dart back and forth, searching for a way out. But it's an eyesore. It's making the whole neighborhood look like a junkyard. Martinez steps closer, giving her a look that could freeze lava. That doesn't give you the right to destroy private property. And if I'm not mistaken, you're the one who made a false police report, claiming law enforcement was needed for an illegal vehicle. Karen looks like she's about to burst a blood vessel. I didn't know he was the sheriff. How was I supposed to know? Davis smirks. Knowing or not, you still committed multiple offenses. You and your security team here are looking at charges for attempted arson, impersonating officers, and filing a false report. One of the fake cops drops his gas can, practically begging. Please, man, I didn't know it was illegal. She just paid us to deal with the bike. We didn't sign up for this. Karen whirls on them. You useless idiots. You're supposed to be professionals. Martinez just shakes his head, pulling out the cuffs. All of you are coming down to the station. We'll sort out the charges there. As they haul Karen and her sketchy crew off, Davis turns back to me. You good, Sheriff? I nod, still trying not to laugh. Yeah, I'm good. Appreciate you handling that circus. Drinks on me later? He grins. You bet. Stay out of trouble, all right? I give a mock salute. No promises. Just as the real officers finish cuffing the two wannabe cops, another car pulls up. An unmarked cruiser. Out steps the sheriff himself, looking about as happy as a cat in a bathtub. His eyes land on my motorcycle, then on Karen, who's still yammering about how the bike is a public nuisance. The sheriff strides over, his boots crunching on the gravel, and glares at the whole mess in front of him. Someone mind telling me why my bike was about to be turned into a bonfire? He growls. Karen's face drains of all color. Your bike? She stammers, glancing at me, and then back at the sheriff. One of the fake cops, still cuffed and clearly panicking, blurts out, We didn't know it was yours, sir. The lady said it was an abandoned vehicle and ordered us to get rid of it. The sheriff narrows his eyes at Karen, and she shrinks back like a wilting flower. And you just took her word for it? He snaps at the goons. Did it ever occur to you to check with the actual owner or, I don't know, maybe not set it on fire? Karen's mouth flaps open and shut like a fish out of water. But it's an eyesore. It's ruining the aesthetic. The HOA has the right to remove unsightly vehicles. The sheriff's lips curl into a smirk. Last I checked, HOA rules don't supersede private property rights or county law. And impersonating officers, that's a felony. You just ordered two guys to commit arson and act as fake law enforcement. You're digging your own grave here, Karen. She tries to bluster her way out of it. I didn't know they weren't real officers. They said they could handle it. Davis just shakes his head. Ignorance isn't a defense, ma'am. Especially when you're the one who hired them. The sheriff steps closer to Karen, his voice dangerously low. You thought you could throw your weight around and bully people with fake authority. That's not just reckless. That's criminal. You're lucky the only thing damaged here is your reputation. If that bike had been torched, you'd be facing felony charges for arson and destruction of property. Karen's knees start to wobble and she mumbles something about how she was just trying to maintain neighborhood standards. The sheriff raises an eyebrow. By committing multiple crimes, You're done here, Karen. Davis, Martinez, get her and these clowns booked. I'll make some calls to see just how deep this HOA corruption runs. As Karen is led away, she shoots me one last glare, but I just give her a lazy wave and a smirk. The sheriff walks over, claps me on the shoulder, and grins. Next time, maybe park your bike somewhere less prone to HOA insanity, he jokes. I laugh. Or maybe just hang a sign that says Sheriff's Ride, touch and die. He chuckles and shakes his head. Not a bad idea. Drinks are still on you, though. Deal, I reply, feeling pretty damn good about how this whole disaster turned out. As the real cops haul the fake officers into the patrol cars, Karen starts babbling incoherently, trying to explain herself. She keeps insisting it was all just a misunderstanding, and that she was only trying to uphold neighborhood standards. The sheriff isn't buying it. He folds his arms and gives her that cold, no-nonsense glare that could freeze boiling water. Misunderstanding, he repeats, his tone dripping with sarcasm. You hired 2 unlicensed thugs to impersonate law enforcement and burn private property. That's conspiracy, vandalism, and employing fake cops. All felonies. You think a jury's gonna buy the misunderstanding angle? Karen's face goes beet red and she stammers out, I didn't know they weren't real officers. They said they worked with neighborhood security. The sheriff shakes his head, clearly unimpressed. Even if that were true, which I highly doubt, you still gave them orders to commit arson and destroy private property. You've been terrorizing residents with your little power trip for way too long, and it ends today. One of the real officers walks up and hands the sheriff a file they found in Karen's car. You'll want to see this, Sheriff. Looks like some forged HOA documents and a list of properties she's been targeting for beautification projects. The sheriff flips through the papers and lets out a low whistle. Well. Looks like Karen's been planning a full-on neighborhood takeover. Guess your obsession with aesthetics is more about lining your pockets than keeping things pretty, huh? Karen's hands start trembling, and she mutters, I just wanted to improve the community. The sheriff gives her one last look of pure disdain. By breaking the law and abusing your position? That's not community service, that's criminal greed. He nods at the officers, and they slap the cuffs on Karen, finally silencing her desperate pleas. As they escort her to the squad car, she makes one last pitiful attempt to get sympathy. Please, Sheriff, I was just trying to do what's best for the neighborhood. The sheriff doesn't even look at her as he replies. Funny, how that doesn't seem to match up with all this evidence. You're done, Karen. As they drive her away, the neighbors start emerging from their houses, cautiously peeking out to make sure the coast is clear. One of them, an older man from across the street, claps me on the shoulder. About time someone put her in her place, he says with a relieved grin. I just nod, trying to process the whirlwind of chaos that just blew through. The sheriff gives me a firm handshake and a wink. If you're still up for it, drinks are on me tonight. You've earned it. I chuckle. You bet. Just promise me one thing. No more HOA horror stories for the night. He grins back. Deal. As the patrol cars pull away, taking Karen and her fake cops with them, the neighborhood slowly comes back to life. People start gathering in small groups, whispering and shaking their heads, clearly in shock over what just happened. One of my neighbors, Linda, walks up with a relieved smile. Never thought I'd see the day, she says, wiping her hands on her gardening apron. Karen's been harassing everyone about the most ridiculous things for years. I can't believe she thought she could just burn your bike like that. I laugh and shrug. Guess she finally messed with the wrong person. I never thought I'd have to deal with fake cops on a Saturday afternoon, though. A few others join us, nodding in agreement. One guy, Paul, shakes his head and mutters, She tried to fine me $100 for having my garbage cans out the night before pickup. Claimed it lowered neighborhood morale. Linda snorts. She put a note on my door threatening legal action because I planted marigolds in my front yard. Said they didn't fit the approved color scheme. The sheriff strolls back over, clearly more relaxed now that the chaos has settled. He glances at my bike, still sitting there like nothing happened, and shakes his head. You sure know how to attract trouble, he teases, smirking. I grin back. Hey, I wasn't the one who invited the neighborhood dictator over. That was all Karen's brilliant idea. The sheriff chuckles. Well, consider her officially dethroned. With all the complaints piling up against her now, it's safe to say the HOA's about to get a major overhaul. People are already talking about replacing the board and putting some reasonable folks in charge. Linda nods eagerly. About time, maybe now, we can actually enjoy living here without worrying about Karen's ridiculous rules. A cheer goes up from the gathered crowd, and I can't help but feel a little proud. Sometimes, it takes standing up to a bully to remind folks that they have a say in how they're treated. As the sheriff heads back to his car, he waves over his shoulder. Catch you later, man. And take it easy on that bike. I don't want to deal with any more incidents today. I give him a thumbs up, and as the neighbors start to disperse, I finally take a deep breath. The tension that had been building all day slowly fades away, replaced by a satisfying sense of justice. One of the younger guys from down the block walks past and grins. Never thought I'd see Karen get hauled off like that. Guess the neighborhood's finally free. I just smile back and nod. Yeah, man, looks like we can all breathe a little easier now. With the sun dipping low and the neighborhood buzzing with a new sense of hope, I fire up my bike, the engine roaring to life like nothing ever happened. It's just another day in the neighborhood, only this time without Karen's chaos hanging over us.